You like to attribute virtues to a person who perhaps may not be entitled to it in every way. But then I am grateful to you. पण बरे उरप म्हणजे काळजाक लागता ते बरे उरयले. I shall begin by paying my respects. First to, what day today is, Vivekananda. So let's all pay our respects to Swami Vivekananda, icon of the youth. And then I turn to Bhausaheb Balodkar. And I pay my respects to his memory as well. This topic is a vast topic. शेजारची वकल कुड्डी अशी एक म्हण आसा ना, तुम्ही आम्ही जाणा. त्यानंतर भाऊ बांदोडकर आमचो मरे गांवचो थंयचो तो. त्यावेळी त्याच्या बरोबरचे लोक म्हणटाले बांदोडकर. आणि त्या देवळा कडेन गड्ड्यांनी मरे खेळटालो. Who is to say this? The contemporaries, people who were of his age, and perhaps who must have played along with him near about that place where he stayed. Then somebody else would say, "Arey to taunas, mara-mari karki." So we didn't know. Then somebody said, "What type of mara-mari he used to do?" And then the news came, then started filtering down, somebody mentioning about it and said, okay, yes, he did fight. Fight with whom? Fight with certain elements who were rowdies, who would poke fun at the local girls and boys. They belonged to a particular category of Goan population. A mixed sort of a race born out of relationship between the Portuguese and the Goans. This was disclosed quite later on. But then, how was I associated with him? In what manner? I must take you to somewhere 1954. I was born in 46. 54, that gives me hardly about 10 years. Just a toddler in a way. I joined the primary school of a local teacher. And in those days, we never had this type of chairs and things. We would carry our own little piece of cloth and squat on the ground. Our teachers, I remember two of them, Professor Chipkar, of course he was not a professor, Guruji, Chipkar Guruji, आणि बेळेकर नावाचे गुरुजी. बेळेकर हा छोटा असा आमच्या तुमच्यासारखा तरुण होता आणि चिपकर मे बी 40-50 वर्षांचे असे. And then Vanabhojan, are you aware of this concept? Vanabhojan, I don't know, nowadays people don't do it much. But मुलांना घेऊन कुठेतरी जवळपासच्या झाडापेडामध्ये जायचं, वनात जायचं अशी ती कन्सेप्ट. आणि दिवसभर तिथं खेळा, छोट्या मोठ्या स्पर्धा घ्यायच्या, तिथंच काय ते सगळ्यांनी आणलेला आपला खाऊ एकमेकांना वाटून खायचं, मजा. अशा वनभोजनाला आम्ही गेलो होतो. आणि आमचा तरुण शिक्षक, दिस यंग टीचर केम सायकलिंग देअर and says, "Come on, you are all wanted back in the school." So he told something to Chipkar Guruji, and Chipkar Guruji says, "Come on, अरे आवरा सगळं चल पळूया." And a distance of hardly about 1.5 kilometers from our school, and we all came back to the school. And I saw a man there, white shirt with sleeves, up to the elbow, closely cropped, white hair, well built, गोरापान असा चेहरा, आणि हिरा जरा घालतोय. मला बसवण्यात आलं, बसा. सो पोरं बसली. त्यांच्याबद्दल गुरुजींनी काय सांगितलं ते एकच शब्द काय आज आठवत नाही. नावही त्यावेळी सांगितलं असेल तेही आठवत नव्हतं. आणि हे गृहस्थ then he started talking to the children in a very friendly way. But आमचं लक्ष कुठे होतं? वी कुड सी पाइल्ड अप ऑन द टेबल स्मॉल बुक्स, नोटबुक्स, पेन्सिली, बिस्किट आणि चॉकलेट्स पाइल्ड अप ऑन द टेबल. And then he started asking questions. मुलांना सांगा रे, this the question I'll tell you is being repeated so often thereafter. एका झाडावर 100 कावळे बसलेले आहेत. एका झाडावर किती रे मुलांनो? 100 कावळे बसलेले आहेत. आणि मी शिकारी, आणि खूप स्वतः शिकारी होतो. माझं गन घेऊन आलो, माझी बंदूक घेऊन आलो, म्हणून मी एक कावळा टिपला. किती? एक मारला. झाडावर 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 किती कावळे राहिले सांगा? आता गणितात हुशार ना आम्ही लोक, म्हणजे दॅट्स व्हॉट वी थॉट वी वर. आता 100तला एक मारला म्हणजे किती राहिले? 99 राहिले. ओके नाही? तू काय तर सांगा बघू. 99 राहिले. किती पोरं जोरदाराने सांगतात 99 राहिले, 99 राहिले. बरोबर बरोबर. आता त्यात एक पोरगा होता की त्याच्या डोक्यात काहीतरी कल्पना, तो असं असं करत काय 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 सांगायचं तुला? गेले, उडून गेले बाकीचे. झाडावर कोण नाही राहिला. अरे वा, त्या पोराला ते असं घेतलं, चॉकलेटी दिल्या, बिस्किट दिली. तो पोरगा तुमच्या समोर उभा आहे. सांगता आठवण मी कधीच विसरणार नाही. मग दुसरा प्रश्न आला, एक मण कापूस, असे हात करू ना, एक मण कापूस, एक मण लोखंड. जड काय? अरे भाऊचे कुठे शब्द लोखंड जड ना. पण यु नो, ही बुद्धीला चालना देणारे प्रश्न, लहान लहान पोरांच्या मनामध्ये एक उत्कंठता निर्माण करणारे प्रश्न. यु नो, दिस क्वेश्चन्स यु नो मेक देम थिंक, compare, rationalize, and so on and so on. तर त्याने ती बिस्किटं वाटली, कागद पेपर वाटले, सगळं पेरं दिली, सगळं दिलं, आणि काय करते नंतर गेले, निघून गेले. आम्हाला आठवण कुठली? त्या कावळ्यांची आणि त्या खाल्लेल्या बिस्किटांची. त्याची दिवस गेले. आणि नंतर एके दिवशी मी आमदार झाल्यानंतर, आता कसं आमदार झालो तेही सांगेन मी, कारण मारुणकराशी ते जुळतं मिळत आहे म्हणून सांगतो. ही सुद्धा छोटीशी कथा तुम्हाला सांगितली. यु नो, इट टेल्स यू अबाउट हिज पर्सनॅलिटी, द मॅन्स पर्सनॅलिटी. आणि ते शिक्षणाशी निगडीत आहे. पोर्तुगीजांचा काळ आहे, लक्षात घ्या. 53, 54, 55 पोर्तुगीज होते इथे. आत्ता कुठेतरी चळवळीची थोडीशी इट वॉज टेकिंग रूट्स. आणि अशा वेळी हा ग्रस्त शाळेमध्ये येतोय, आणि आमच्याच शाळेमध्ये नव्हे, नंतर बातमीला आले, माहिती लागल्याप्रमाणे त्याचं एक ते फॅड होतं. एनी विलेज, एनीवेअर, मोमेंट ही सॉ स्कूल समवेअर, ही वुड वॉक इन. गाडीमध्ये बिस्किट, चॉकलेट्स, स्वीट्स used to be there always. He used to carry some money also with him. काय शाळेत काय अमुक आम्हाला काय कळत नव्हतं, मास्तरांना करून घे वगैरे वगैरे. And this is the way he would promote education, all these places. This, पुन्हा त्या गोष्टीकडे I may come back, or may not. So Chipkar Guruji, he retired. I went on to become a MLA. आणि ओल्ड मॅन चिपकर गुरुजी घरी आले माझ्या, आणि रात्रीच्या वेळी आमच्याकडे थांबले. माझ्या वडिलांनी त्याला थांबवून घेतलं आणि आम्ही जेवायला बसलो. अरे तुला आठवतं का रे? While you know we're having a food, he reminds, he asked the question to me. अरे तुला आठवतं आमच्या शाळेत बालोडकर आले होते? कधी कधी. अरे कधी काय? ते कावळ्याची गोष्ट तुला आठवत नाही? तू उत्तर दिलं होतं, तुला त्यांनी बक्षीस दिलं होतं. It took me back, you know. I become emotional a bit. मास्तरांनी शिकवलं त्याबद्दल आदर हा आहेच, परंतु एका दिवशी येऊन एक एवढीशी जी काही त्यांनी गोष्ट माझ्या शाळेमध्ये केली आणि मलाच नव्हे तर he must have generated so much of liking for education, for rational thinking, for mathematical work and so on and so forth with that particular incident. Phenomenal. And this is the root where Goa gets its name in a different way. Today's Goa we all know. Day for yesterday I told this story to the Chief Minister and other MLAs in the Assembly on 9th of January, just 3-4 days back. Early morning on 9th, I got down at the Mopa airport. And as I put my foot down on the floor, on the soil of Mopa, Prime Minister's words started ringing in my ears. He said while inaugurating, Goa, of course, is now on a path of great development. And very soon, the number of tourists visiting your state will be more than 1 crore. And the figure will go on increasing. इतने सारे tourists, इतने सारे आपके गोवा में आएंगे. Development and development and development. So I said I remember his words. And that took me to some advertisements which I spoke to you some time back. It took me to some advertisements appearing in our newspapers, classified advertisements in the Times of Naveen the Times, 15 days back. Continued for about 7-8 days until I talked about it in a meeting in Mapsa, which was for demanding naming the Mopa airport as the Anand Bandodkar airport. Of course, people had other views, that's another story. And it has been named now after another chief minister. But I said in that meeting, इतने सारे लोग आएंगे, who will be there to take care of so many visitors? Naturally, you need more hands. आज अगर आप लोग कलंगुट जाएंगे, कहीं भी जाओ, come to Mandre, my place. Go to a shack and you will find young men and women, mostly from, I think they must be coming from the northeast. And they are working in different capacities. They are working as waiters, cooks, receptionists, etc. Of course, they are all Indians, we welcome them. But then when 1 crore people land here, and the figure goes on increasing, and when the newspaper blares out advertisements, calling upon you, asking you people, he says, names of the villages were given in those ads. Wanted land in Mandre, Murji, Arambol, Palye, Keri, Murji, Agarwado, Chopde, all those names of the villages in Pena Taluka cited in that small advertisement. Wanted land in these villages from 10,000 square meters to 10 lakh square meters. Land of any type, agricultural land, forest land, slopey land, plateau land, khadratli zamin, the description went on. With or without papers. The next line is very important. With or without papers. Party from Delhi prepared to settle within 30 days. Contact number, mobile number, so and so, so and so, so and so. You can check it in your library. You can take the last week's. Perhaps today also some similar advertisement might appear. And now try to grasp the gravity of the situation. 100 lakh people coming down. 1 crore people coming down. And then there are people from Delhi and elsewhere, the money bags, trying to buy land, whatever type of land. Wherever it is, of any dimension. And they are confident that they will buy it, they'll get it converted to the type of user they want to make, high-rise buildings, green cover gone, people of all shades coming in. क्या होगा मेरा गोवा का? Where will I go? Where will you go? कहाँ ठहरेंगे? खेती बाड़ी का क्या होगा? ग्रीन कवर का क्या होगा? Ten years back in an article I used the word conquistadores. You must have heard this word. When the Europeans started out of their countries, Portugal, Spain, Dutch, Netherlands and so on, they started invading. Europeans came to Africa, they came to Asia, Vasco da Gama landed in Goa, they went far east, they went towards America, and they started conquering, and the word used is conquistadores. So these conquistadores came and they conquested, that means they won over the land. They fought sometimes. Sometimes people just do, like Timari Appa. Timappa invited Appa to Albuquerque to go. The story is there. It's a beautiful. Yesterday itself I was reading a story by one of our newsmen, Maya Bhushan Nagvekar. Title of the story, The Door. And he writes about a young man. You must have read about that story. He juxtaposes the generation like yours with what happened 500, 600 years back. How Timaji Appa came here, what sort of man he was, and how he helped the Portuguese to defeat the Bijapur army from your next door, Goa. So these conquistadores of those days came to conquest, to take over our land. They came with guns, they came with all sort of force at their disposal. And today the new conquistadores, this I wrote 10 years back in an article. It is a part of my book called प्रतिवेचे देणे. 2050 सालचा गोवा नव कॉन्किस्टादोरांची वसाहत. This is the word I used. आज ती गोष्ट इथं घडत आहे. पुण्यामध्ये cinema producer, director of a cinema, and who is the main actor in many of those films which he has produced. He has made a new film which is named as कामाचं नाव आहे anyway, Mulshi pattern, that is the word used. Cinemaचं नाव आहे Mulshi pattern. And what is, how it goes around? Mulshi pattern talks about villages, great villages in the Western Ghats, beautiful place, lakes, rivers, everything. And the tourists started coming in because it was closer to Bombay and closer to Pune as well. And then somebody like, अरे इथं माझं घर असतं तर काय छान झालं असतं नाही का? आपण म्हणतो ना कुठेतरी समटाइम वी गो टू हिमालयस, काश्मीरमध्ये इथं माझं घर असतं. हे आपण कल्पना करायची आणि परत यायचं. But there are people who buy the land there. And their agents came to the villages and said, अरे हमको इतकीशी जमीन द्या. What is the price? अरे सांग ना तोडायला येईल ते सांग, देतो आम्ही तुझं. भीत that man says, blurts out, नाही एका यार्डला स्क्वेअर मीटरला 100 रुपये. काय नाही 100 रुपये सांगतोस तू, 500 घे. हा 500 देतोस? हा 500 कशाला? तुझं सगळे मला मिळवून देत असेल ना, 50 एकर आहे जमीन, तुला वेगळा मी 100 रुपये आणखी देईन तुझे म्हणून. बाकीचे 500 रुपये तू तुझ्या बाकी भावंडाकडे वाट. असं करता करता whole of Mulshi now has been sold out. And the original inhabitants of that place, who were once upon a time, very proud farmers, proud wrestlers, some of them, And many of them had been in the army. But education-wise, almost nil. These people today are serving these new landlords as their bodyguards and sentinels trying to protect the property. So is Goa going along that Mulshi pattern way? This is the question I am posing before you. And this takes me back to Mr. Banodkar. दयानंद बांदोडकर भाऊ साहेब किंवा तुमच्या आमचा सगळ्यांचा भाऊ साहेब, you know, this nomenclature came later on. Started as भाऊ, आमचो भाऊ, आमचे भाऊ. And then, you know, try to understand the times in which he lived. For that, you have to go back in the history for some time to understand what exactly भाऊ did or how त्यांची मानसिकता कशी जुळत गेली, बनत गेली, हे समजण्यासाठी त्या काळाचा इतिहास, त्या काळाचा मागोवा थोड्याफार पण आपल्याला घ्यावा लागेल. Forget about the ancient past when so many dynasties ruled over Goa. Now, when we speak Goa, please understand. When we speak about the past, speak about Goa as a small village or आता जो जवळपास गोवा आहे तो. Because there was no Goa of the geographical boundary that we have today. So when they came, the Portuguese, they first conquered some part. They called it Old Conquest. They conquered some more parts. They called it the New Conquest. During the Old Conquest, there were a lot of changes. Religious patterns changed. Conversions took place. People, you know, embraced new religion. Rightly, wrongly, lovingly, forcibly, arrogantly, whatever way. But people changed their religion. Their lifestyle changed. Portuguese made them to work in a different way. In the New Conquest, the pattern was rather different. In Portugal, it was the monarchy. Monarchy gave rise to a constitutional monarchy after some time. Sometime in 1920, I believe. The historians will tell you correctly. Then came Salazar. And with the establishment of republic in Portugal, a revolution started in Goa as well. तोपर्यंत काय होतं? There used to be schools. It's not that there were no schools in Goa in those days as well. But कुठंतरी देवळाच्या वसईवर, कुठंतरी एखाद्या भाटकराच्या पडवीत, आणि कोण जायचे? त्यांची मुलं, आसपासचं एखादी कोण. But by and large, what was the tendency among the people of Goa? I remember my own case. Supposing I tell you about my own little grandson today. From the age of 2, he used to see his elder brother going to school. So as soon as he started walking a bit, he would grab his brother's bag, put it back here, and try to walk with him. So now he goes to school. When I was of that age, what was I doing? I was running after my cows. And my children of my age, living in the villages, living even in the town of Mapsa, you know, we would follow whatever our elders did. If somebody is a farmer and goes to the paddy field or whatever field, the child also tracks along with him. If somebody is a fisherman, the child does the same thing. If somebody has some cows, the fellow does the same thing. But if there is a tradition of education in school, the little one also wants to follow the elder one. So this is how copy-paste, that is what we call today. This is also what will happen. So in those days, after the Republic came in, there was a revolution. And then, Madam, you cited, the Honorable Principal cited Ambedkar. She talked about Mahatma Phule, Rajarshi Shahu Maharaj, and of course, Shivaji, and his attempts to take over Goa, defeat the Portuguese, Sambhaji's strength. All this was a little bit known here. So these Pantojis of those time who came from nearby areas were implanting these stories about emancipation, stories about education, stories about social reformation and so on. And then from 1920 onwards, almost in all major towns and cities of Goa, educational institutions started springing up. In Margao, Gomanta Vidya Niketan today, in those days it was known by the caste name. In a place called Morji, Vidya Prasarak Mandal. In a place like Pedne, another institute. Here, Ponda and your areas. So almost everywhere the school started. Now we must also know how the Samajik constitution was. We were all, divided into castes. Even today it continues. So the Brahmins, or rather Brahmins amongst us, the Saraswats, the GSPs. As I said, naturally, since the father had studied and the mother had studied, or the elder brother is studying, so naturally the child also studied there. And the farmer's child goes to the field. कोण गुराकी म्हणून चल्लो, कोण खारवी म्हणून चल्लो, कोण आनी कसो मेस्ताचो भुरगो ते घेवन बसता आपण कितें जाता तें टक 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 टक. So they had started the schools. And then this revolution started. Everywhere in Goa, schools started. Some teaching up to 3rd standard, 4th standard. Very few in the villages, in the towns, up to SSC. And then they started going over to the neighboring Maharashtra state to get their vernacular final, that was the one word used, up to 7th standard. Vernacular final. And then SSC and so on and so forth. So Banodkar belongs to that age, remember. Born in 1911. He belongs to that age, and without being told about education, the influence starts seeping into his mind. And there were stalwarts as well. One of the writers, Khalap of Goa University, has written a wonderful book about him. How the whole democracy was revolutionized in Goa. How it was a revolution so far as the whole country was. He compares it very beautifully. I would advise you to read that book. Huh? Is it? Oh, wonderful. Then you must be proud of him. He has really analyzed the whole entire activity in a beautiful way. You might have heard about persons like Rajaram Painginkar, Narayan Karwarkar. Then comes Babu Banodkar. And how was our society in those days? Certain obnoxious things were happening. And they were continued in the name of God, in the name of caste, vagara, vagara, tradition and promotion. The social hierarchy was marked by our varnas and caste. It continues till today. Though the intensity and the injustice arising out of it appears to have diminished a bit, but not exactly and fully. So Banodkar belonged to a class of Goans who were at one time despised, yet loved in some other way, exploited in the worst manner. No marriages of girls. Chess was a term, chess vidhi. So the girl is married to the god, and then she chooses her husband or whoever. Now such a community getting together, reforming itself and rising to the level of the topmost communities of the country is itself a story which requires in-depth study and recognition and understanding. Research. One of you can do that research. How wonderfully, within a very short span of period, this transformation has taken place. And then the root of all this is education. At the core of everything is education. Somehow that whole ideas, seep into the minds of Banodkar. And wherever he goes, he makes it sure that there is a school in the village. Even before liberation of Goa took place. There's a village called Korgaon. It's very famous now, a big village. You won't recognize this today. But in 1970 with 73, as a candidate when I went there, the villagers took me to a small, gotha type of structure with no proper roof on top. Mud floor, wiped clean with cow dung. And they said, "Are, खबर आसा तुका? ह्या स्कूल ही शाळा कोणी आमकां सांगली काडून?" I'm using their language. खबर आसा? भाऊन. आमचे भुरगे थंय शिकले. एक काम करा, तुका आमी मतां घालता. छप्पर घाल. Old man telling me. Imagine, the love for the man and love for education. And I did that. I saw to it that the school structure became a pakka structure. Even now when I pass by that side, I smile to myself. Wow, beautiful. Of course now the road has come, light, everything is there. That was how. I went for a funeral in Mapsa's, that Fidul Ghat, Smashan Bhumi. And it is, it has a beautiful wall around it. And one of the elderly persons who was also attending the funeral tells me, "Compound kone malne tu jana?" So, Bawan malne. Huh? Kya re? Adi. खंय तरी वाड्यार म्हापशां रावताले थंय he lost his father there and the father was cremated. But at that time it was an open place. Later when he could, collect some funds, some money, became a mine owner and all that. Without telling anybody, one day the laborers came, masons came and the work started. Now it is well protected. In Sattari, I came across certain gentlemen from the Dhandar community. Well, I was thereafter moving around in many places. And they would point me here on my padwin. Kamlicher Bhavo, hanga bosun yala. Ami dile ki Khalap. When he was not a chief minister, nobody was. आणि आमच्या भुरग्यांक काय तरी दिले वगैरे वगैरे. सो हा दानशूरपणा, ही सोशल नजर, सामाजिक नजर, this desire to do something for the society and without telling anybody that he is doing it, no tom-tomming about it, no publicity for it, no जाहिरात for it. उजवा हात कितें करता दाव्या हाताक खबर ना अशें म्हणटात पळय आमी. In that fashion he did the work all over. And he also realized the plight of the farmer. These two things are important. We must take him, we cannot talk about Bahu unless we talk about the land reforms. We can't talk about Bahu unless we talk about the education facilities which is there. We can't talk about Bahu unless we talk about the health, and then of course the infrastructure. And the social mingling that he created. His very party, begins, this party constitution talks about Bahujan Samaj. In the very first signature of line. Of course then language and merger वगैरह वगैरह. So these aspects also we'll talk about. So when he talks about Bahujan Samaj, this masses, the word used is Bahujan Samaj, masses. Who are they? अरे आज सुद्धा असं झालंय की मी अमक्या जातीचा. New word has been coined recently. शहाण्णव पळी मराठा, नाही का? Bhandaris call themselves the Kshatriya Bhandaris. The Kharvi community calls itself the Kshatriya Maratha communities. Then Gomantak Maratha, Channav Puli Maratha, वगैरह वगैरह. And the origins of all this, where these origins are. Portuguese enacted certain laws. Usos e costumes de lavradores. Hindus e lavradores. Lavradores are farmers, big farmers. Hindus are Hindus, of course. Their customs, they protected the customs by. They enacted a law called Lei de Mazanias, Mahajan Qaida. And when these laws were made, of course, there's a call the Comendadish. Comendadish Qaida. All these were enacted at the advice. Whose advice? Did the king of Portugal know about what Mazani was here? Or what was the position of the farmers here? They didn't know. थोड़ा पानी मेल भाई मैंने sorry. And what happened on account of these laws was the customs and usages prevalent here were concretized. Who became the Mahajans? Even today, certain वांगोड्स, they call them वांगोड्स. देवळे खुली करा म्हणून आमचा एक मित्र गेली अनेक वर्ष काम करतोय. देवळे काही खुली होत नाही. Every festival he goes there, people gather there. मडकई नेरवाय is a famous example of that. पंढरपूरचा विठोबा खुला झाला. आचार्य साने गुरुजींच्या प्रयत्नामुळे विठोबा खुला झाला सगळ्यांना. राम खुला झाला. If you go to Pandharpur, you can really embrace विठोबा. I have done that. पायावर डोकं ठेवायचं. आता of course they have restricted because of they say the murti is old and then it's being damaged. So they Abhishek vagare, they have limited it. But with my own hands I've been able to give Abhishek to Lord Vithoba. आपल्याकडे आजही you stand 20 meters away and you take the Lord in your heart. If you are a devotee. If not, Chandiste Murti. Whatever you feel, that your feelings you express. But we have kept till today all our gods in lock and chain. When will you liberate them? And if God is universal, how can it be belonged? How can it belong? How can it be a private property? In your own house, it can be your property, no doubt. Silver, gold, stone, whatever image you put there, and you are worshipping, nobody enters your house. But then if it is in a public place, and you invite people from the world to come and worship there, you have no right to keep the Lord in chains. So in this context, Babu's personality needs to be examined. In this very context, it needs to be examined. Emancipation is very easy to say. Work for now also, even today, all governments tell you, oh, we are working for the poor people. We have so many huge bridges, airports, railway, this city, electronic city and cyber city and God knows what else. But then, what about the living conditions of the people there? What about the relationship inter se between caste and varnas? Is there still a ladder to rise or not?